The next coach on the teleconference is Illinois' John Groce. The Illini are 19-12 overall and wrapped up Big Ten play with a 9-9 record. Illinois will represent the number 8 seed in this week's Big Ten tournament and take on 9th-seeded Michigan on Thursday. Coach Groce, good morning.
Good morning.
Let's go straight to questions for you.
If you'd like to ask a question during this time, simply press star, then the number 1. Your first question comes from Mark Snyder, Detroit Free Press.
Hey, Coach. John, when you're looking at Michigan and trying to handle what the Wolverines have to do, you saw them at the beginning, you saw them near the end, and both games were close. But how do you prepare for the Wolverines that way? You know, when not knowing kind of you've seen different teams, versions of them.
You mean the difference between Game 1 and Game 2?
Yeah. I mean, and obviously, is Game 2 enough evidence for you to say that's what they are, or do they change? I mean, because they keep plugging in different guys, and different guys are emerging.
Well, I think teams change throughout the course of the entire season. Obviously, they played 5 games since we played them in Game 2. And we've studied all that here very quickly, and we'll continue to study it more leading into Thursday. But, I do think there's something to be said about this time of year. There's certainly wrinkles that coaches will make to a lineup or maybe to an offense or to an action that they run. But when you're in March, you kind of are who you are. Now, obviously, both of us are a little bit different because you could make the case that Michigan and Illinois probably sustained the most roster change due to, the injuries and different things throughout the year than maybe you could debate as much as any of the other teams in the league. But having said that, in terms of, schematically, what they're doing offensively, what we're doing offensively, defensively, I mean, you kind of are who you are at this point with some adaptations and adjustments here and there, but you are who you are for the most part.
Okay, thanks.
Sure.
Your next question comes from Eric Olson with Associated Press.
Yeah, John, doing a little piece on Maryland and kind of the season that they've had here in their first year in the Big Ten. I guess given the personnel losses that they had from a year ago and what they did this year, how big of a surprise are they to you? I know you guys beat them. Just kind of curious how big of a surprise they might have been to you this year.
Yeah, it's tough for me to say they're a surprise because I didn't study them like that last year. So I don't have as good a feel. Obviously, if they'd have been in the league last year and you see, who they lose, sometimes you get addition through subtraction. And I always say if you add or delete one player from a rotation or a team, there's a ripple effect that's either going to ultimately be positive or negative. Obviously, Turge would know that more than I would. What I can tell you is that I like their team. I think they play really well together. I think they understand their roles. I thought that going into Game 1. I have seen them play, several occasions since because we're watching the same teams on film leading into game prep of our games, and they seem to be a team that's getting more and more comfortable. I think the fact that they played those young guys early while Wells was out certainly helped them a little bit like it helped us with Hill and Nunn when Rice was out. It gave them a chance to kind of mature and grow and get better. But I like their team. I think they play very, very well together. They seem to play the right way. They seem to like playing together, and those things are huge. They play as a team, and that's probably the thing I've appreciated the most.
Thank you.
Your next question comes from Teddy Greenstein with Chicago Tribune.
Hey, Coach, was there much debate about the new format in terms of double buys and all that as coaches, or was it just kind of a no-brainer to do it this way for the tournament?
I don't think there was much debate at all, to be honest with you. That was the way the bracket was set up. That's what we were going to do, and that was everybody kind of knew that. I mean, there was no debate over how the bracket was going to be set up.
Do you think that's an appropriate reward for the top 4 teams, and do you think maybe there's any sense of then they come into the tournament cold?
I've been in both those situations as a coach, as an assistant and head coach, where you've had some time off, or you've had a few days, or maybe more days to rest, maybe than the opponent. Maybe they played one in the arena, you haven't because you're in a single buy or double buy situation. I just think that depends on the team. Some teams this year need rest more. Some teams this year maybe they need more games to stay in rhythm. I think that depends on the team. In terms of the accurate reward, yes, I think our league is really good 1 through 14, vastly underrated. The more I watch some of these games at night, I think our league is really good, top to bottom, and I think it's an appropriate reward for those 4 teams.
All right. Thank you.
Sure. We got time for one last question, please, Darla.
Your final question comes from the line of Brendan Quinn, M Life Media Group.
Hey, Coach. Before your last win over Michigan, I think you'd had a long string of losses there, like 8 straight. What was it that they did that was kind of so successful against you for that span? And then also, do you kind of feel like you got a little...
Repeat that question again. You said what now? Before we played them, there was, what was 8 straight?
Before your last win over Michigan, I think you had a string there of losses. A lot of them, some of them were blowouts, some of them were super close. What was it that was so effective, and do you feel like you got a monkey off your back?
Not really. I mean, I don't pay attention to that stuff because you can't control that. That's when you said that. That's why I had you repeat it. I wasn't even aware of that.
Okay.
You know, each game is its separate entity, and you have to figure that out. I think if you want to be successful in this league, if you think because you played well in the previous one, that's an automatic you're going to play well in the next one, or because something happened a year before, or 2 years, or 3 years, or some streak. I mean, I think that's great for media relations people and all that stuff. But at the end of the day, the game on Thursday has absolutely nothing to do with the first 2 that were played, and has nothing to do with the previous 8 or however many years. Or we got to play well on Thursday, and I'm sure they're telling their guys the same thing.
Great, thanks, John.
Hey, no problem.
Thanks, Coach. We'll see you in Chicago.
Okay, thank you.
The next coach on the teleconference is Michigan's Groce Beilein. The Wolverines are 15-15 overall and finished with an 8-10 Big Ten record. Michigan will be the number 9 seed in this week's Big Ten tournament and play 8th-seeded Illinois at 11 a.m. Central Time on Thursday. Coach Beilein, good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. It was a good weekend here with to get back in the win column. Have Max Bielefeld play a very good game on his senior night, and see our young guys really show great maturity in being able to get away from Rutgers and have one of the few comfortable wins we've had this year.
Thank you, Coach. Let's go to questions, please.
If you'd like to ask a question during this time, simply press star, then the number 1 on your telephone keypad. Your first question comes from the line of Bill Rabinowitz with the Columbus Dispatch.
Yes, John. I'm doing a story on one-and-dones and the effect it's had on teams' continuity. How difficult is it to build a program with staying power when a team's truly elite player tends to leave after his first year?
Well, I think we haven't had any one-and-dones, thank goodness, and but the two-and-done has similar type of ramifications. So it is very difficult. I don't know all the research that's out there, but we've lost 6, I think, or 5 or 6 in the last couple of years, and it is difficult because the uncertainty in recruiting the prior fall, because young men do not want to come in and play, and they want to play right away, but they see this star there. At the same time, if that star goes pro, you don't know whether someone's going to go pro. Some people can assume it, but they don't go that way. So it is difficult.
And what effect do you think it's had on college basketball in general, just the rule itself?
I don't think on college basketball has had much of effect. I think it is going to affect individual programs, where you'll see a team like Kentucky in the NIT is 1 year. You're seeing what has happened to us, plus the injuries. But overall, college basketball will survive all of that. I just think it's individually it's difficult to maintain the expectations that the coaches, fans, have their program when you can't maintain that continuity.
Thanks, John.
Your next question comes from the line of Jeff Arnold, the New York Times.
Hey, John, how are you?
Good.
Just wanted to talk to you a little bit, ask you about, how difficult is it to game plan for a player like Frank Kaminsky?
What's really it's a great story. I don't enjoy the game plan. I enjoy the story of here's a guy that averaged 2 points a game as a freshman, and wasn't probably rarely on our scouting report as a guy who had to stop 3 years ago, and now he's arguably one of the best players in the country. No, because he is. He's got that skill. There's a skill set of a guy being able to score inside and score and shoot threes that is very difficult to defend. But now you also add that he does see the floor. When he gets double teamed, you're going to have a step-in three or like a closeout opportunity where somebody can drive with somebody else. So when you try to double him, he's seen that movie before, and he's really good at executing out of the double team. So very, very difficult, very challenging to get ready to play Wisconsin in general, and then you take a big man with that package, very hard.
As a coach, why do you like that story of the guy who comes from being a backup to now being, like you said, one of the top players in the country so much?
It's just, I think what I've always embraced about college basketball, you have all the rating systems of people coming in, and and everybody's basing the future on these rating systems sometimes. And while obviously some of them are very accurate, there's so many great players out there, and we've had quite a few the last couple years that were not the McDonald's All-American coming in. They were just guys that were willing to put in their time, work hard, stay the course, get a great education, and have a great college experience. And so it's always good to see a guy what Frank has done here.
Thanks, Coach.
Thank you.
Your next question comes from the line of Mark Snyder, Detroit Free Press.
Hey, John. Though it's not desirable, obviously, do you think you have some advantage in terms of people trying to prep for you because your focal point and your offensive star keeps changing? Who's scoring the points?
Yeah, it could be. I mean, you'd have to ask them, but I know that we every week are as we've gone through this transition in a transitional year, that we've had to change some things. We're playing more zone than we have in a long time. We are also, all of a sudden Aubrey Dawkins comes out and averages 28 points in 2 games to end the season. Those are type of things that probably other people might not have planned on. So I would assume, I think we're all more comfortable when we know what to expect from another team. And then you try to, as challenging as that is, trying to win the game. But with right now, we have different people stepping up, and we have different people also showing that they're young. And who are you getting ready for? That's the question.
Thank you.
Your next question comes from the line of Rod Beard with the Detroit News.
Hey, John. Good morning.
Good morning.
Hey, with Muhammad, is it really just getting down to the end of the year here where it's a fatigue issue or maybe the freshman wall issue that he hasn't played as much or played as well as he did a few weeks ago?
No, I don't think so. I think that he is we've been putting him on the other team's best player over as his defense has gotten better, and he's really concentrated on that. I think he's pretty well rested and he's doing his best, but he's learning on the fly, and one day it's a zone like Northwestern, the next day you're playing against Rutgers or somebody. So he is really he's making progress, but I don't think he's tired. I think that he's just continues to learn every day, and that can probably stagnate temporarily your improvement.
And I know you talked about Aubrey's production from the three-point line. Was that something that you've constantly worked on, his form and his mechanics in that? I know you mentioned the quick release before, but just the general mechanics of it.
I think not to the extent with some others, but he has really he came in with extremely high arch and a slow release. And between Coach Meyer and Coach Val and myself, who work with all the perimeter players, he understands what we call the Ray Allen shot. You got to get rid of it quickly because there's a 6'7" guy coming at you very quickly. You can't. It's not a shoot around. It's not a game of horse. And he's really done a great job of speeding up his delivery lowering his arch. Believe it or not, most kids come in with low arch. He came in with some really high arch, and really getting into a groove of what is the best shot for him.
Thanks, John.
Again, if you'd like to ask a question during this time, simply press star, then the number 1 on your telephone keypad. Your next question comes from one of Teddy Greenstein, Chicago Tribune.
Hey, Coach, was it a no-brainer once you guys expanded to 14 to adopt the format with the double bye?
Yeah, it's probably the teams that are at the top of the league deserve this, and that but everybody deserves to be in the tournament as well. You just never know what can happen, and so it's really it makes a lot of sense. And the problem with that is those teams are don't know necessarily who they're going to play, but it's the way it should be done if you have 14 teams.
All right, thank you.
Yep.
Coach, thanks for your time this morning. We will see you
All
in
right,
Chicago.
thank you.
Thanks.
All right, bye-bye.